Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Hope everybody had a great New Year's. And we are back for the first build of my channel and of the series. We are going to be covering what is, in my opinion, the strongest endgame build in the game. We are going to be covering a build for Shadebinder using the Stasis turret and a headstone primary. I'm going to be using P-Spawn throughout the video, but you can use IS Luna if you want, and in the future, if we have another headstone weapons, maybe a pulse or a scout in the future as we get more stasis primaries, I would highly recommend getting headstone on as many primaries as possible, seeing as champion mods don't seem to be going anywhere, and getting as many as possible is as great, as always. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, first up, let's go ahead and dive right into this. We're going to start off with the helmet. The helmet I am using is an exotic helmet called I Have Another World. This helmet, its exotic perk is called Cerebral Uplink. It gives you increased ability regeneration rate for your grenade, melee, and rift. It is approximately plus 30 to your stat. It's an invisible plus 30 to your stat, than that. And it does go over cap. So if you're at 100, you're basically getting an extra 30 tiers onto your stat. In my opinion, in endgame content where kills become hard, this outranks Verity's Brow. Though I do think Verity's Brow is incredibly strong in low to medium content. But I think where this build shines is in endgame content where you need to have the turret up as much as possible, and I think this is where this helmet comes in. On that helmet, I've made the helmet Stasis Affinity because we're going to be running 2 copies of Well of Restoration, which is a elemental well mod. I'm also throwing on 2 copies of Power Preservation, which is an S tier mod for any roving super in the game. You're literally getting 2 orbs per kill. Every time an orb would spawn, you get 2, which is a crazy, ridiculous number of orbs. You literally double your total orb count on roving supers, which is amazing. That's really it for the helmet. I think it creates higher ability uptime, which is important for the long run of this build. Alright, next up we're going to go ahead and hop on the gloves. Your gloves are going to have a grenade kickstart and elemental armaments on them. If you don't have high enough recov armor to run 100 recov, I would go ahead and throw on a recov mod here since you'll have the open spot. I'm running a discipline mod since my armor is high enough to have 100 recov with only 1 recov mod on the armor. But I can't dictate where you should put your stat mods because I don't know what your armor looks like. I highly recommend though for this build 100 recov, 100 discipline. But on my gloves, I'm running Stasis Affinity with a grenade kickstart and a elemental armaments. The grenade kickstart is going to give you about 4% of your grenade back on the throw of the grenade once it hits the ground. It'll give you that about 4% back, which will shorten your cooldown by about 2-3 seconds, which is an extra 2-3 seconds you ain't got to worry about not having it up. Alright, next up we're going to be going to the chest piece. Alright, we're on to the chest piece now. For the chest piece, I'm just have a recov mod and Seeking Wells on. Seeking Wells helps in content where you can't push up to your elemental wells. You can get within like 15 meters or so of them. So like decently close, but not super close. And they'll come to you, which is really nice. Makes it so you don't have to push up and get them. It lets you stay back and get them. Other than that, I'm not running any resists or any reserves because I'm leaving that open to player choice based off what content you're playing. Obviously, if you're playing a GM like Exodus Crash or something like maybe Fallen Saber, you probably want to throw on an arc resist. If you need a different element, you can always move the elemental affinity of this piece to a different piece if needed to create a different resist on your chess piece. I know resists are one of the most important parts of keeping yourself alive in endgame content. So I don't put anything on my chess piece until I'm in that content and I need it. But for this, I'm just running a Seeking Wells to help get those wells to me, so I don't have to push up in that endgame content and force myself to possibly be in harm's way trying to get my elemental well. Next up, we're going to head to the boots. Alrighty, on to the boots now. Boots are simply a bountiful wells and then a recuperation. If your armor has high enough resil that you can get to 5 resilience without the resil mod, then don't worry about it. I'm going to cover this in another video, but 5 resilience is the perfect stat number for resil inside of PvE. It creates it so that you can survive some things that would normally one-shot you. There are still things that will one-shot you at over 5 resil in GM content, but you have to go to 100 at that point, and unless you're a Titan, there's no reason to be that high. So 5 resil is your magic number inside of PvE, and this build for my armor with 1 resil mod puts me at 1 small resil mod puts me at 5 resil. So that's why I'm running the resil mod there. But all in all, I highly recommend recuperation. It's an S tier mod, maybe an S plus tier mod. Playing without it is really weird. If you get used to playing with it, I mean, any orb of light you pick up will instantly give you about 1/3 of your health back, and that includes the shields. I know there's some things out there that say give you health back that don't give you actual health back. But that's all for the boots, and now we're on to the class item, which is going to be kind of up to player choice. Alright, on to the class item we go. Alrighty, we're on to the final piece now, your class item. Class item is going to be a little self-choice, partially due to particle deconstruction this season being such a I must run this mod. Particle deconstruction causes your build to become a little limited. But in a season without particle deconstruction, there's a lot of options you can do here. You can run, if you need a stat boosting mod, obviously the first column, that's completely your choice of what you need to make the build work for the 100-100. Other than that, without particle, you can run something that's like double bomber and then like a font of might or a font of wisdom to give yourself 100 intellect here. And actually, I think font of wisdom, sorry, is actually probably faster than 100 intellect because it's like I don't think they changed how much of a boost it gives you to your intellect, and so I don't know if it's still like running 100 intellect. I don't know if you're like if it's a scalar, to be exact. But you can run something like Font of Might or Font of Wisdom. If you want to leave the piece solar and you use your chess piece to go solar, you could go like Explosive Wellmaker on here and run like Font of Well of Ordnance on your chess piece. All player choice on the class item. The only thing that's really important is, in my opinion, making it solar, because I think Bomber is a S tier mod. It's gonna give you a severe chunk of your grenade just for casting your rift, which you're gonna do a lot, especially in endgame hard content. You're gonna get weak a lot. You're gonna cast your rift a lot. And you don't have to be near enemies or anything. It just gives it to you. So I think that is really good and should be used. Other than that, And if you're still in Season 15, I highly recommend Particle Deconstruction. If you're in Season 16 and we have a mod for rocket launchers or something that gives you a debuff to rockets, or we have like Oppressive Darkness or something back, obviously I would run that here. If we have Passive Guard again like we do this season, obviously Passive Guard is really good, and if you're in a strike where you need to run a sword or you're running a sword for something, I would put Passive Guard on. Class item I can't truly dictate because you have to have Particle Deconstruction on this season. You're kind of hurting yourself not running it, and so I would highly recommend running it. Well, that's all for the armor. Now we're going to get into the aspects and fragments I run on my class, and then I'm going to go into how to build it and what it should, and how to play it. I think that's the most important part. How you should play it, what you should go into. Alright, let's head into that. Alright, we're here on the class. My two aspects are the Ice Flare Bolts, which is the when you shatter a frozen target, you get basically a cold snap grenade that goes and freezes the next target. You kill that one, it goes and freezes the next target over and over again, as long as you are getting kills. I have the turret on, because turret is S tier. And then, other than that, my fragments are Whisper of Fissures, Whisper of Shards, Whisper of Refraction, and Whisper of Torment. Torment gives me grenade energy when I take any damage at all. The more damage I take, the more grenade energy I get. When I defeat a slowed or frozen combatant, I get my class ability energy back. Not all of it, but I get some back. When I get that class ability energy back, it gives me my Rift, which, as I recommended before in the class item, I recommend running Bomber. This is why, because you're getting your Rift back pretty fast. And you can proc Bomber pretty fast this way. And running Bomber gives you your grenade back, which will give you more turrets, which then will give you more grenade energy, which will then give you more class ability energy, because you're killing more slowed or frozen targets. I have Whisper of Shards on because the headstone crystals count for this. Any crystal actually counts for this, but the headstone ones count. And so I recommend running the headstone crystal I recommend running the headstone weapon for this reason, because then you don't have to worry about throwing your glacier grenade for anything. And then lastly, I have Whisper of Fissures on to help with the damage and size of the explosion from the shatter of the stasis crystal. From the headstone weapons, also with your glacier grenade. I'm on Healing Rift, and I'm on Burst Glide, and glacier grenades. Alright, that's it for the class. Alright, let's go over some strategies and other things and tips for playing this build in GM level content. Alright, well, first, I would make sure the headstone weapon you are using has a mod for the season. That's really important, because that makes sure that you can still get the perks of headstone during said season. For instance, this season we have Unstoppable Sidearms, so in Unstoppable Strikes, I can run Peace Bond here, and have Unstoppable. If there was an AR, I could run any barrier. If there was a pulse, I could run Unstoppable Pulse, but there's currently not a pulse or an AR in the game with headstone. So, or I could run a bow if we had a bow with headstone, but we don't currently have a bow, so I can't do that either. But for right now, we have Peace Bond and IS Luna. Both sidearms and hand cannons are pretty popular in the mod section for champions, so that should be something to look out for. Second, make sure you're shattering your crystals every time you see one spawn. The buff has a 10-second cap on it, so like it has a 10 seconds cooldown. But if you're continuously shattering crystals, its timer just doesn't reset, won't go down. It'll just stay capped at 10 seconds. So as long as you can keep Whisper of Shards buff on your screen, the more often you'll have your grenade up. And my last tip that I think is most important is remember that you have your Rift, and your Rift is being given to you by Whisper of Refraction because you're killing slowed or frozen targets. And when you pop your Rift, you're proccing Bomber, which is giving you your grenade in turn. Those are my 3 major tips from playing this build. Last thing for just any elemental well build that I'll probably put in every video is make sure you're paying attention to your elemental wells. They are on a timer. They don't sit there forever. So make sure you're going and you're getting them. You're picking them up if you're not close enough to them. You should be in most cases close enough to pick them up without a problem. But I would make sure that you're close enough to pick them up without a problem. So just make sure you are. Other than that, that is all I have for you. I hope y'all have enjoyed a breakdown of what I think is the best endgame build in the game. If you can legitimately run 3 Shadebinder Warlocks in any activity in the game and you will clear it. It might be slow, it may not be the most efficient path, but there is not another class in the game that I could recommend 3 of besides maybe 3 wells. But 3 Shadebinder Warlocks and you will clear basically anything in the game. It is that strong. And you can even feed off each other's crystals if you're teaming in common correctly, which is insane. That's all I have for you today. Hopefully everybody has enjoyed. Please do not forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is much appreciated. Also, if you have any friends who are Warlock mains or who are looking for info about what builds they should run on their Warlock as they get into the game, go ahead and share this with them. It's a good breakdown of what you should run and what to look for. Be on lookout for a new video on Wednesday, and thank you all, and that'll be it. Bye.
understand we're allies.
The last time we sent in a team was years ago. We found what remained of their bodies scattered across the sky watch.